The Tao of Self-Confidence, episode 892. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. Visit our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits. Well, hello, friend. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan, and today I have another amazing lady on the show today. She is a global director, corporate and professional services procurement, and I'm super excited to have her on and share her story today on self-confidence. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Megha Malik. Megha, how are you today? Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
Hi, Sheena. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. Megha Malik. I have been recently part of the Asian Women group, mentoring group circle called WISE, and that's how I got to meet you, Sheena, and learn a little bit about your journey. I'm excited to just share my story, a little bit of where I come from, and whatever little I can do to help all the women out there.
Thank you so much, Megha. And it's so great that we're also part of the USPAACC WISE cohort program, which has been so amazing to just connect with amazing women just like yourself, meeting up at in-person events, doing our mentorship circle. It's been a blast because as women, it's really important to have that collaboration, that camaraderie, that sisterhood, so we can create the changes that we want to see. So thanks for sharing that. And what's your cultural background?
That was an interesting question for me to think about a little bit. I've recently been on a path of self-discovery against this. I was reading A Culture Map by Erin Meyer, and honestly, it only confused me further. And so I had to actually look up a definition of what does cultural background mean. And it said it includes customs, language, traditions, religion, education, social and economic factors that shape individuals and their sense of belonging in a specific society. So I guess I had a short answer and a long answer. Short answer being I was born and brought up in India, went to college in Singapore, and have been in the US for almost 20 years now, working and bringing up my family. But I guess there is a long answer to that. I was born and grew up into my adolescence in a North Indian conservative society. Those cultural and traditional beliefs still form the foundation of my being. But I found my education in a very cosmopolitan but still Asian environment in Singapore. And that shaped my sense of independence and pride in those young adult years. Today, having worked in the US for almost 20 years, I feel one with the American fabric, driven to success in every element of my life and maximizing every moment I have on this planet. And honestly, my corporate behaviors are more akin to the American cliches. But working with global organizations and teams, I am still surprised at how I evolve daily. So that was a long drawn version of my cultural background.
I love it. And it's important to acknowledge everything in our life, right? Whether we lived in Asia or the US or in Europe, they all are part of who we are today and what made us or what helped us get to where we are today. So I love that you mentioned that. And what'd be your favorite self-confidence quote?
I came across this at a cafe in New England, and it said, accept no one's definition of your life. Define yourself. It's a quote by Robert Frost. I just didn't know of it before, but it just stuck a chord with me.
I love that because especially as women, we feel like we're always defined by something. Like even if you're a mother, you're defined as a mother and nothing else. And I've seen a lot of moms once their kids go away for college, they get lost because their role as a mother is pretty much gone because they're off on their own, they're off into the real world, they're getting into adulthood. And so, that definition is really like who we are authentically, what our personalities are, what our skills, our capabilities, the good, bad, and the ugly. So I really love that you mentioned that great quote. And Megha, what's your definition of self-confidence?
This is hard, right? How do you define self-confidence for yourself? And I truly believe it changes in every life stage. Today, probably it means to trust and believe that the choices and decisions make today are going to be based on the information I know and understand in the moment. To not live my life with regrets and what ifs. To know that I'm enough and don't have to live to anyone else's standards.
That's a great definition, especially knowing that we're more than enough. As women, our self-esteem brings us down. We always think the worst of ourselves, myself included. I'm guilty of it. And we really have to remind ourselves our true power, our true self-worth, and what we can accomplish. We may not be able to figure it out at that moment, but we are capable to figure it out as we go in this life, in this journey called life, full of roller coasters and twists and turns. So I love that definition that you mentioned. And Megha, what was your life like before you discovered self-confidence?
I don't think there is a life before or after, right? Still trying to find that self-confidence. Some days I succeed and many days I fail. The only way I know to have self-confidence is to prepare and plan. Venus Williams said, fail to plan and plan to fail. And that's honestly a mantra I live by. Some would say I am a serial planner, but self-confidence for me is gained and learned. Some are lucky to have it inherent in them. I am definitely not one of those. For me, it's a journey and I just have to keep trying at it. And that's how I would say there is still a journey.
Thanks for sharing that. And of course, self-confidence is a lifelong journey. We practice every single day. There's going to be things that will pop out of nowhere that's going to test us and build our strength and character and our courage. And it's important to have the tools and resources to help us navigate through those challenges, right? So we know what to do the next time it occurs. So I'm grateful that you're able to share that. And I was just curious, what was that aha moment that made you realize you were more than enough to be the woman who you are today, especially, as a woman in corporate, it's not always easy, especially, as a woman of color. There's still a lot of biases, whether it's gender or cultural, unfortunately still happens, right? But what was that aha moment that made you realize no matter what the circumstances are, I'm going to make it happen?
I think in short, it was lower your expectations. It was interesting because I've always, and I'm sure I'm not the only one doing this, have set very high standards for myself and by association of others around me. And the problem with that was that the only one getting disappointed when things didn't happen the way I wanted them to was me. And it caused a few years back, I was driving myself to extreme anger, depression, and almost a constant state of frustration. And then something clicked, and I decided to drop those expectations of both myself and others around me. Sorry, the best way to put it, suddenly I found a calmness in my life that I had not experienced before. I was happier. I felt less bound by what others were doing and what their expectations were of me. And I focused more on what I could control myself, which meant that I knew what I could achieve within my own limitations, and I was not waiting for somebody else to deliver against those. I reached a place where I also decided that I was not responsible for pleasing anybody else. And I had to just go back to the basics of literally who am I and what's more important to me.
Thanks for sharing that. And I can totally understand when you set high expectations and you don't meet those expectations and you get so bogged down by it, you feel like it's the end of the world. You feel like you can't do anything else because you have this expectation of what it looks like in your head, and then it becomes the total opposite in real life. So I love that you're able to say, sometimes I just need to lower it. I just need to let go of it and just live as my true self. And especially like in Asian culture, one of the biggest things we were really good at is like seeking approval from our parents, right? Because they gave us life. So we have to do everything they tell us to do. And that can really take a toll on us, right? Because we feel like if we don't meet their expectations, we're a failure in life. And it took me a while to let go of that expectation so I can move forward in my life. So I love that you mentioned that. And because of your realization, what's your life been like now?
I would say I've got some more control in my life. And don't get me wrong, I'm a control freak. But when you stop having expectations of others, you drive things as and when you want to and how you want it. I still believe I can hold high standards, but I'm only limited by myself. So to me, it actually also gave me back more confidence in myself because I was not waiting for somebody else to judge me. But I agree with you. I was actually recently with family back in India, and I am 40 plus, and I was talking to my aunts and uncles, and we were all really talking about how we, no matter how old we get, we are still trying to get our parents' approval. And we don't know why, we don't necessarily need it, but that's what we are craving for some reason. So, in some ways, it's that balancing act of saying, okay, I am who I am, and either you accept me this way or not.
Thanks so much for sharing that. And Megha, to the woman who's listening to your episode, she may be in her own journey to self-confidence. What would be that one tip you would give to her?
Be kind to yourself and be selfish. If it's okay to want to constantly define what's important to you and it will keep changing, let it. And just do it for yourself first.
I love those tips that you mentioned. I mean, especially like being selfish, like it's okay to be selfish, especially when we've been trained all our life to always please everybody else and forget ourselves. Like self-love and self-care is really important in our daily routine because without it, we're going to get burnt out. We're going to feel like we're not good enough. And we're always, having that expectation again of always striving for the next level when we don't have to. So thanks for sharing that great tip. And if our listeners wanted to get to know a little bit more about you and what you do, is there any links or social media profiles we can connect with?
Absolutely. You can always reach out to me on LinkedIn. It's probably the best way to connect with me.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And to our listeners, if you want to connect with Megha, you can also head on over to thetowofselfconfidence.com and search for Megha's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else that we talked about. And I really just want to thank Megha today for taking the time to share her story and tips with us on self-confidence. So thank you so much, Megha.
Thank you, Sheena. Really appreciate this. And thanks for inviting me over.
Not a problem. It's such an honor to have you on the show. And to our listeners, be on the lookout for another new episode of another amazing woman's journey to self-confidence. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of The Tao of Self-Confidence. You can order your copy of Asian Women Who Boss Up book by visiting our website at thetowofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits.